over everything.
C-O-E-E.
More about what the elites are up to in these mostly white countries. It's not about the whole of the white population. It's the elites. And with that, I would like to share with you a discussion of this book, Britain's Secret Wars. If you want to understand a little bit more about Britain's role in the world, this book is essential, absolutely essential. It gives you information that you cannot find in the so-called mainstream media. Can you guys...
And that's in your language.
Sorry, you're in the middle of it. No meetings within a meeting.
No,
No meetings within a meeting.
Oh wow, so there are rules here, right?
Yeah, it's Speaker's Corner, there are rules, man.
Rules?
Yeah. Not very strict rules, but there are rules.
So if we want to have a conversation, we have to go away.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to do anything.
Were we too loud? Is that all?
No, it's just that, you know, this is a shared space. It's not just a space for two people to have a discussion, it's just a space for everyone.
You're allowed to heckle when you don't agree with
It's a collective space. You know, I think so many people in the modern world, they spend all their time on their phones at home. And they lack social skills, basically. They don't know about their environment. They don't look at there's people around you that maybe are distracted or finding it difficult to listen whilst you're talking.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not personal, my friend. I am not making a personal attack. I'd say this to anybody. Now, going back to this book, Britain's Secret Wars. If you want to understand Britain's real role in the world, I really recommend this book. The one that stood out the most for me, there was a chapter on Sri Lanka. During the Sri Lankan genocide of the Tamil people by the Sri Lankan federal government, or the military government it was, the United Kingdom was so disgusted by the ethnic cleansing of 40,000 Tamil people. They were so disgusted by this that they sold them £1 million worth of weapons the following year. This is the kind of reality we live under now in Britain. And that, not even in the left-wing dissident media which I read, not even in there did I find that. I had to find it in this book and a couple of other articles on the internet. So even in the left-wing critical media, there's not much discussion of this. Very serious genocide that took place in 2009. That's when I was already an adult. That's quite recent.
That has nothing to do with whites, blacks. Forget about it. The more we talk about it, the worse you're going to get.
What would you like to talk about?
No, you're linking two things. You sell weapons, so what? It's business. I'm not saying it's right. It has nothing to do with this country being white.
It does. Let me tell you something.
Link the two things.
Let me tell you something.
In my view.
If those were British people, if those were white Anglo-Saxon people massacring other white Anglo-Saxon people, would you be happy to have your government sell those weapons to Sri Lanka?
My government? This is not my government.
The government you live under.
I live here, so I'm a citizen.
The government you live under. I think you understand my point. Yeah? If you want to actually have an interesting exchange of ideas, being like pedantic and looking on every single word is not going to help. Try and get the general idea.
Am I?
I think you know what I mean. When I say your government, I don't mean you made it yourself or you value it.
It's not my government. I'm not British. I live here, so
fine, I'll speak to you all as a crowd then, generally. The government you are now under, either temporarily as a tourist because you're visiting, or because you live here like me. Alright? That government, you should know something about this. If you're here just to see Westminster Abbey and the London Eye, there's another side of London and England which you should be aware of. It's not just castles and kilts and shortbread. There's a lot more to this country than the tourist stuff. This country sells weapons to some of the most brutal dictatorships in the world, on a large scale. Not on as a small industry. It's our main manufacturing industry in Britain.
So what, sir?
This is something to take with you back to America or France or wherever you come from. You should remember this about Britain. It is not a friend of democracy. At home, there is democracy, because for hundreds of years, women and working class people struggled for that democracy, and they used violence and non-violence to get that. All right, at home, for hundreds of years. So the elites, they allow it here because of the struggle. But overseas, if you're a Palestinian, you're fair game. They don't mind selling weapons to Israel that will be used to butcher Palestinian people.
So what?
They don't mind selling weapons to Turkey to use to butcher Kurdish people. They don't mind selling weapons to Saudi Arabia so they can butcher Yemeni people. They don't mind working with corrupt regimes such as the Ukrainian regime to bolster up support against Russia. They don't mind working, according to this book, there's a whole chapter on Ukraine.
Corruption.
They don't mind working with actual white racists, fascist groups like the White Hammer.
Where?
They don't mind collaborating with them
Where?
indirectly in order to keep to keep Russia out of the Crimea.
So
Where?
what if they don't say
Where are the
so
white racist groups?
So what if this country said? So what if this country
But
said?
my question came first.
to Saudi
Man, am I trying to
Arabia?
answer this question?
Go ahead.
For argument's sake, I'm Mr. Putin, you're Mrs. May, you've decided for whatever reason, I'm not selling you any more weapons, I'll step in, I'll sell you what you want. I'll supply you as many weapons.
What's your point?
If we stop, then someone else will jump in.
Okay. You care to make another point?
Sorry?
Do you have any other point you'd like to make? How does it follow?
Doesn't make sense.
How does it follow from that very obvious fact that I don't make sense? How
It
does it
doesn't make
follow?
sense. Even though I don't like you, I don't trust you, I'm going to sell you my weapons, my technology, to keep you on my side, to stop him, who is my
The Saudi
supplier.
Arabians are not on Britain's side. They're not on Britain's
No,
side.
but while we're
The
selling
Saudi
weapons,
Arabian elite, which take our weapons, they use those weapons and they're fine with that. But can I tell you something as well? Saudi Arabia and Qatar and similar states like that have been funding groups like ISIS, which are the enemy of Britain. They've been funding those kind of groups for years. And can I tell you something else interesting? Julian Assange, who is now being kept detained without charge in the Ecuadorian embassy, his publication house, WikiLeaks, revealed during Hillary Clinton's campaign that Hillary Clinton, while she was the American equivalent of Home Secretary, was well aware that Saudi Arabia, the government, was funding ISIS. Previously, people were aware that individuals were funding ISIS within the Saudi Arabian state, but then thanks to that leaked cable, that leaked email from Hillary Clinton's office, it was revealed that they were aware that the whole of the Saudi Arabian government, the whole of the Qatari government were funding ISIS. Are these really on our side? Selling weapons to Saudi Arabia or Qatar doesn't mean that they're on our side necessarily. That doesn't mean anything at all. It doesn't logically follow that just because we sell them weapons that they're going to be our friends. That's not how it works.
My man.
That's not how it works.
No, not my man anymore.
So this gentleman now, I think because he knows I've actually answered his point very comprehensively, he's not actually engaging with what I'm saying. Because he knows I've answered your point. I'm not here to be confrontational, my friend, but you've asked me a question, I've answered it now. And I hope if you have anything else to say, it's going to be useful as well. Excuse me?
even though they don't like them, they will supply them with the technology and innovation.
It doesn't stop them buying from Russia or Canada. It doesn't stop them. That is not how the arms industry works. The arms industry is very lightly regulated, and there is no deal whereby, oh, America and Britain are selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, so therefore it's not going to buy weapons from, say, Israel or Russia. That's not how it works. Arms dealers are actually very rarely in the countries that they're selling weapons to. They do something called brokering. Brokering is when you buy from one country to sell to another country from another country. So, for example, I'm in England and I'm going to sell, I'm going to buy, let's say, for example, I'm going to buy a guided missile launcher from Russia, and I'm going to sell that to Egypt. I'm in Britain, though. I don't even go to either of those countries. That's called brokering, and that's how the arms industry works.
Mr. Teacher, could you answer my question, please? You were talking about white nationalists, like racist groups. Which white racist groups were you talking about?
The White Hammer was the one I mentioned. The what? The White Hammer.
White Hammer. Where is it?
Let me find this chapter.
Where is the White Hammer?
Forgive me if you find this boring, but this book is incredibly enlightening, and I think it's worth reading it from at length, because it really sheds good light on what Britain has been doing in Ukraine.
In Ukraine?
Yeah.
So you're one of the people who believe that the revolution in Ukraine was a fascist revolution?
No, I don't believe that.
So what are you talking about?
What am I talking about? I'm talking about the willingness of British governments to collaborate with the corrupt Ukrainian.
You were talking about what white people did to the world. Yeah?
Your own democratic regime. That's what this is all about.
Do you know what? Wait, this gentleman mentions. No, this is more interesting, to be honest.
Oh, it's
this
more
gentleman
interesting.
mentions.
No, it's not more interesting because you're talking shit about Ukraine.
I have the freedom.
No, you have the freedom. This man has just said that I have the freedom to talk shit and to not get shit.
Oh, I'm awfully sorry.
No, Kyle.
Why don't you have a look?
This is your bad habit. You talk shit to people and then you expect them to just take it.
speaker's corner, I'm in my own little world, you understand?
No, Kyle, I'm talking to you now. You're not escaping from this one. You're not running away from this one. No, you're not.
So what will
Unless
do
you
if
jump
if
out
I
and
pick
run
up-
away, you're
If
not
I pick
running
up my
away
ladder
from
and I
this
move
one.
it somewhere else,
No,
what are you going to do?
Kyle,
Follow
you're
me?
being like the woman who keeps calling me a fascist and then doesn't, and then never, and yeah, you're calling Ukrainians fascists.
Try and listen. You have a lot of intelligence. Try and use that to control your emotions, because I'm not trying to
No emotions. I'm trying to talk to you, and you're trying to deviate the conversation to him because you do not want to answer my questions.
It's not that.
That's your bad habit. You keep avoiding my questions.
This is an incredibly complicated discussion about Ukraine.
Kyle,
I need to address
you
this.
said that there are many groups in Ukraine that are fascists, that are white supremacists, that are white nationalists. I want you to elaborate.
I gave you an example, White Hammer. Go and research it.
Never heard of
Now, just as you feel insulted by having me insinuate that you're fascist, which I haven't, I feel insulted by what this man just said to my left. Alright, so I'm going to address that.
Well, okay,
now, you can empathize how I feel.
Okay, so you're not going to answer my question, are you?
Maybe later, this time.
No, later means never with you. You will never address it.
I'll be around today if you want to ask. This is not a conversation between me and you.
No, it's fine. I won't break your speech anymore, but I'll just tell you one thing, Kyle. When you say something, you need to address it. You can't just escape in another conversation.
I can actually do whatever I want. This is free
You
speech.
can do whatever you want, but I can call you out on it.
Fine, you have done it.
Good luck.
So this gentleman here to my left,
I'm not a gentleman, that's your first mistake.
he's not a gentleman, okay. This man, this red-blooded Irishman, he said that I'm anti-British.
I'm Irish, British, and European, and I've offered to sell you a passport if you want one.
I already have an Irish passport. I don't
But
need
you
that.
want a European one, then you can go easy in and out.
An Irish passport's as good as a European one. No, I'd like to address something you said.
Well, then Irish
It's very
passport is a
serious.
European.
When someone here identifies as a liberal, calls someone else an anti-British.
As a social democrat.
That's what I've
I have
been
a
called.
social democrat
Fine,
brother.
social
I'm proud to be a social democrat. What's wrong with that?
To be honest,
Irish
a
leprechaun.
social democrat and a radical liberal, there's a lot of overlap.
And you're depending on the week, you're either a socialist or what are you this
No,
week?
don't get
What
off
are you
topic.
this week?
You called me anti-British because I was criticising the United Kingdom's government's
But that's all
policy
you ever do.
on selling weapons to repressive
That's
regimes.
all you do. Anti-British.
That for me is a form of I'm not trying to get hysterical here, but that for me is a form of crypto totalitarianism. When someone is getting called anti-British because they've been criticising their government, that brings to mind
only
countries like Russia, where you get called anti-Russian for criticising Britain.
You only bring up the subject of the war in Yemen because you've got a bias. Okay. You only criticize your own country. When it comes to Yemen, the only thing you take out of it is criticism of Britain. You don't criticize both Saudi Arabia and Iran. You may criticize Saudi Arabia, but that's just a roundabout way of criticizing Britain. I've no idea.
I've said it. Just for the record, for everyone here who's listening, this is very important. This is to do with the fate of our country's reputation, right? I have repeatedly explained to this man in about 100 different ways why I focus on Britain. I don't want to assume any malicious intent because I come here with good faith, but I am starting to get the suspicion that there is malicious intent, if you don't mind me saying. Because I have explained to
The
you.
meaning is mutual when you describe Israel as a vile country.
When I've never said that.
You did.
I said that the regime is vile.
It's a democracy.
The regime is vile, the government is vile. Not the people of Israel, they have barely any control over the policy. Just like Britain, we have barely any control over the territory. Now,
That's
what I've said...
a rather godlike view. You're above everything and you see everything.
For anybody here interested in intellectual self-defense, this is a good Exhibit A, alright? When you come to Speaker's Corner, when someone sees that you're getting onto the truth, they'll try and interrupt you. They will try and interrupt you because they know you're about to get there.
You never interrupt.
Case
You
in
never
point.
interrupt.
Case in point.
You never interrupt.
Case in point.
You never interrupt.
If we're to elevate this from like a concrete playground to...
Elevated. No, I see. To this high level of intellectual learning, which you
Go
think
away.
you... Go ahead.
So, now I'll answer this question. I am not anti-British. I focus on the United Kingdom because it's the country where I live. And I think it's the more intelligent and brave and intellectual thing to focus on the crimes of which you have more control over. As a British citizen, you have more control over...
Control over crimes.
I'm actually not to leave. It's just unbearable. Why don't you get mad at me?
Let me think again.
Don't worry, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it.
Content of everything from now to Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
For example,
Listen.
are not originally British. Boris Johnson's grandfather, Osman Kamal, was Turkish and Sadiq Khan transferred Pakistan to London in '68, although I'm pretty sure both of them would call themselves Irish. Some people blame migration for the fact that there aren't enough hospitals for the amount of women that need to give birth, or that there isn't enough space in schools or education. But in reality, it is not the fault of the migrants. The government is to blame, as they are the ones cutting spending on services.